to this meeting is being recorded, to make sure that agents are fully aware of the current and latest changes in what's making students more likely to pass or to not pass their pre-CAS and CAS interviews. So without that, I'll go straight into the interview. Please let me know if anyone else joins, Richard, because I can't see. I'm looking at the presentation. I can't actually see who is there so I'm
Don't worry, Chris. Don't worry, Chris. People are joining us. There are some more agents join us, but you just go ahead. We go with the flow.
Good.
Automatically.
I like to have a bit of interaction, so that's why I said that. I like to be able to pick on people and make sure they're paying attention, and I'll let you do that on my behalf. Okay, Richard?
Okay, fantastic, Chris.
Right, I'll move to... So the idea of this is to improve your performance potential. That doesn't just mean the candidates, that means the agents and us in turn. And the first slide is just basically, what is CAS? Most of you know, but just to confirm, it's the confirmation of acceptance for studies. And there are two interviews. One is the pre-CAS and the CAS interviews. Pre-CAS is the interview conducted by universities. CAS interviews are conducted by the UK Visa and Immigration Department. And the purpose of the pre-CAS and CAS interviews is to verify the authenticity of a student's intent, academic preparedness, and financial capability. If anyone has any questions, please interject. I will answer as I can. The key preparation tips.
Yeah, wait, Chris.
I have a question. Yes, Chris, if you don't mind, I have a question. That if a student is well prepared, financially he's stable and he's ready to take the enrollment in one of the leading universities in UK. So why is this CAS interview necessary for him or her? Like, what is the purpose of this interview?
Okay, maybe I can reply to you, Aziz. There are different universities, there are different steps to follow, you know. And now some universities, they don't request the CAS interview. So there is no need to do a pre-CAS interview. Logically, it would be easy. But we work with about 40 UK universities. So some of them, they really request to do the CAS interview. So this seminar today is a general information about the preparation of the students in case they need to do a CAS interview. Very simple.
Right. Got it.
Okay. So these are some key preparation tips that it's advisable to teach the candidates. First of all, be honest and clear. Provide truthful, concise answers, and make sure that they align with their statement of purpose and all their support documents. I like to think of it as telling the true story of the candidate's life and what are their plans and goals. Research everything thoroughly. So universities are going to pre-CAS and CAS interviews. They're going to ask you specific questions about the university you've applied to make sure that you understand the courses and what the university's separate faculty and ethos is. So they must research thoroughly. I talk to students every day and they don't even know the name of the campus, or they quite often don't know anything. They just give a generic answer, and generic answers are all very well, but that will not set them apart. And if they're struggling with their English proficiency, then there's any reason that to give them more credibility, the better. So that's the next point. Practice on the English proficiency. Interviews assess the ability to communicate in English. And so practice clearly and make sure you are confident with your responses. More key preparation tips. The way to answer questions is first with the point, state the main answer, the evidence, and the explanation. Make sure technically they're well set up. Make sure that the internet is stable, the device is charged, and there's a quiet environment. Make sure to review the documents to make sure your answers are consistent. So general guidelines, what are the universities or the UKVI looking for? They're looking for an understanding of the location of where they're going to study, and they want to understand whether they know the facilities and what are they expecting at the university. They need to make sure they understand the choice of course, why are they choosing that particular course, and understanding the modules and how does that tie in with their plans. Then clarity, why study in the UK, and what are they hoping to achieve once they've graduated. And lastly, if there are any gaps in their resume, to explain why they have study gaps.
I wanted to point out something, Chris, here. I think this is very important.
Yes.
In refer of the technical part, we realize, unfortunately, Anna and Aziz and Mrs. Ekman-Preet Kaur, that many students are never on time. So when the interview starts 11:30, maybe they show up 11:35 or 11:38 or 11:40. So for us, technically, it's not a problem. But if they have a CAS interview and if they show up late, they will be rejected. Very simple. They don't care. The examiner of the university, he doesn't care. He gets his £140 for the interview from the university. The students come late. He just put rejected. Very simple. So all the work that we do, that you do, is for nothing. And unfortunately, statistic last year, over 25% of the students came late.
Yes. So this is the point of what I'm going to say. Logging in the Teams or Zoom interview, I think most of them are conducted by Teams now. Make sure to arrive on time for the interview. As Richard said, when I conduct interviews, students are quite often late 5-10 minutes, and sometimes they just never there are no shows, which is, it'll be an automatic fail. Similarly, if they can't get their video to work and they can't get the audio to work, or the sound system's not good, or the internet connection isn't good, they're not going to be able to pass. They must dress appropriately, and finally, they need to have a professional conduct and a good attitude.
Yeah, the problem is sometimes that people do not know how to use Teams. This is as well something that I invest a lot of time to inform every agent to explain the students how to use Teams before they do the interview. So they should know how to put the camera on, how to put the microphone on, make sure that there's no noise around, make sure the internet is very good. As well here, statistic-wise, last year, 2024, we had about, as well there, 27% of the students who had this problem at the CAS interview, so they failed. So 27% is a high number, very high number. And this is why we have this seminar to invite the agents to explain to the students the importance. And they cannot ask for a second interview. Many universities will not be interested. So this is why we have to explain you these details, which I think it's very, very important. Chris, you can continue.
Yes, and I think the way for success is to, as Richard said, to get the candidates to to log on to Teams, but not only that, they need to practice, and this comes down to either them working with friends or with the agents to practice. So it's not just one time logging in. It's they do it repeatedly. They make sure their setup is correct, and it's not doing it the last minute. For example, trying to make sure their background is working on the last minute. That's not good, is it, Richard?
Yeah, this is another issue.
So the first question. This is one of the. Sorry, I didn't introduce. I'm going to go through a few questions, which are the main questions that you're likely to be asked. I'm so sorry.
This cannot happen during an interview. We makes to be sure that the mobile phone is in silent from the student. This is happen as well. So there are many issues that happens during an interview. So until within us, there is no problem. But if this happen when it's an interview with the university will not be happy. The examiner will just reject the student. So
I apologize for that.
No, it's good this happened now as well with you, so we understand.
Nobody ever calls me Richard.
Don't worry.
Except for you. So,
don't worry.
Tell me about yourself and your background. Now, this seems at first sight to be a very simple question, but people often get confused when they start off and mumble and they aren't clear, and they get their personal life and their education and their professional confused. So I like to get the candidates to split it up. And I've given here some basic, simple answers where you can fill in your information. So if you would share this with your candidates to get them to prepare their answers beforehand, that would be very helpful for them to actually write it down and get them to not to be making it up on the spur of the moment. Okay. Second part.
I wanted to point out something as well of what happened in this year. It happened everything. For example, some of the students, they use the artificial intelligence. So they had the big screen on the back side. And so the student was reading exactly, the agent was writing down and the student was reading. And this cannot happen. So if this happens, they fail. So I repeat one more time. If they are late, they fail. If they're late 2 minutes, they fail. If they're not ready to put the camera on, microphone on, they fail. If they use the intelligence artificial, they fail as well. If the agents on the backside is helping them with questions, they fail. So there are so many considerations to make and to explain to our students, because if we are not on time, if I'm not on time myself and I'm not often the office at 7 o'clock in the morning here, my staff is waiting outside the office. So I'm the person that have to open at 7 o'clock. So the same is in this business with the CAS interview. If we are not able to be on time in a meeting, how we can pretend that our students are on time is impossible. So this is something that we have to teach our students to be on time. I have 3 kids, 22, 25, 29. And sometimes I really need to tell them, hey, guys, when you go to an interview, you have to be there 10 minutes before, not on time. On time is when you go out with friends. But when you do business, you have to be 10 minutes before there. If the meeting is 11:30, is 11:20, you must be ready with Teams or Zoom, camera on, smiling, well-dressed, good microphone. But if you're coming late, in this world of business education, you fail. And this is why we have this seminar to explain you why many times our students are not accepted by the university is because the student was not well prepared. And the fault is my fault because I was not informing you and you was not informed the student. So students today, they're just looking in the air and they walk in the street without thinking what we should do. So we should train them. We should tell them how to prepare themselves for a CAS interview?
I'll give you an example, Richard, of students that have called me, and sometimes I see that it looks like they're reading. And I've actually asked the candidate the other day, I said, could you please close your eyes and give me the answer? And I was shocked. He was able to do it with his eyes closed, but he still sounded like he was reading. So I said, okay, you did well. Please open your eyes. But it was a one way to test whether they are actually reading or not. He said, please close your eyes. So when you are, as an agent, if you're testing your student remotely on the video, you can do this to check. Okay. The next one. Why did you choose this specific course? So many candidates give a very generic answer when they answer the course, and I always ask again, but they must rehearse beforehand. They need to know the exact course modules. They need to be able to list them. They need to speak about why they like particular course modules and how does it tie into their future career aspirations. So I'd like you to make sure that the candidates are well primed on this. Why are they genuinely interested in that course? And also specifically, why is that course at the particular university they're applying for different from others? So they need to research first. They must get online. They must drill down into the details of how is that course delivered, how many hours they have in the classroom, how many months they have to study for, really clear details. Any points on that, Richard?
No, I wanted to show one of your report that you make to students later on. Just they will see exactly all the questions and the answer. Sometimes it's incredible, but please move forward, Chris.
Yes. Okay. Again, why did you choose this university? So candidates need to be able to describe very clearly why is this particular university suitable for their goals. It could be whether it's the university reputation or its location, or whether they are interested in a particular member of the faculty's expertise. They should be able to find this information online, and not generic answers. They must have understood what is the institution's ethos, what is specifically offered at that university. They need to have looked at what the surveys tell them if they look in the rankings of a university by student experience or living or career opportunities, whatever the university can offer, which is different from other universities. I'm sure all of you know this basic information because you're all agents recommending different universities, but this needs to be got across to the candidates. Again, on each slide of these slides, I've given a sample answer where the candidate can fill in specific to their particular university. So why did you choose to study in the UK? Now, for this answer, it's clear that UK has definite advantages over other countries. Because the courses are shorter. If it's in London, obviously, they've got better access to international cultures. The other thing is, so the duration of the course, the costs of living are quite comparable now. It used to be the UK was a lot more expensive, but now the UK is very competitive with other universities in other countries. So and the one key point is for candidates not to mention anything about staying in the UK to work, even though there is work opportunity afterwards, unless they're going to stay on for a graduate route visa. So any other thoughts adding to that?
No, it's fine. Statistically as well, here last year when we made a statistic, we had about 70% of the students who said that they choose the UK because they want to work there in the UK. So this is a wrong answer, and examiner will reject the candidate immediately. So it's very important to tell your candidate, to inform that when they finish, they will go back in the home country, maybe in the father company or a friend of the father company who has in a bank, etc., etc. So they have to have a very clear direction what they want to do when they finish in the UK, but always explain they want to go back home and start and work back home in some company, etc., etc. So this is very, very important. If they say that they want to work in the UK, they are out.
Yep. All of the candidates that I have interviewed for WEBA so far have been clear about that point, actually.
Yeah, I was thinking about statistic 2024 now. 2025, yes. I will make end of the year, Chris. Then I can show you something.
Okay. Hopefully it's an improvement.
Let's see. Let's see.
Right. Next question about the important subject of financing your studies. So this is more for the UKVI interview that goes into more detail. But first of all, the candidate has to be able to verify they're prepared for studying in the UK. They need to be able to tell in any question that you ask about finances, they must know the exact amount of tuition. They must know approximately what their living costs are going to be. If they're in London, obviously that's higher than it is in other cities such as Leicester or De Montfort University, for example, or Sunderland, or where else do we send students to?
Everywhere.
Everywhere, yes.
Yeah.
So they must be aware of this, and I'll come back to this later about the living costs, but it's better if they're able to talk specifically about a particular accommodation that they've researched and say the exact price per week. Every detail they can give makes it more believable.
Yeah, they should know how much is the tuition fee, how much is the living cost in London, how much is the living cost outside London. The UK government change every year, so always be up to date with the UKVI information on the website. How much is the accommodation per week? How far is the distance from the accommodation to the university? How they will be transferred from the accommodation to the university? They will take the train? They will take the metro? They will take the Uber? I don't know. But they have to explain exactly everything in details.
Yes.
Move on. Yes, here's the most important part.
Yeah, this is what we talked about earlier. Richard mentioned what are the plans after completing studies. So the opening statement must be, I plan to return to my home country and pursue a career in a company. If they can mention the name of a company that they are targeting, or their father's company, or in some cases they want to set up their own business, the more detail, the more accurate they can be, the better. So I had a candidate this morning that I've already taught him before, please say first thing that you're going to return to your home country. And he forgot to say that until he did say it, but later on in his answer. But it should be the very first thing that you say. So again, most of the candidates have been clear about this. Is there a fail rate on that statistically, Richard, for this?
No. This year is okay. This year is good. This year, candidate know exactly. But as you mentioned just now, that sometimes candidates forgot to tell this. Until they forgot with us, is okay. But if they forgot when they have the precast interview, then it's a problem.
Yes.
Move on.
So this again is I think more and more important that candidates have taken standard English language tests such as IELTS or TOEFL. They need to be able to say exactly what the scores are in each band, not just overall, and they need to be able to explain it clearly. I understand some universities are not so strict on this. Is this still the case, though, Richard?
It depends case to case, but the problem is that some examiners are very making tricky questions. Okay, so they ask tricky questions, and sometimes the students are not ready to answer correctly. So when they say, "Okay, tell us the score that you had on IELTS," and not generic, sometimes students forgot or they don't know. So it's very important that students are well prepared if they have a CAS interview. They should know exactly and to be ready to answer these tricky questions. Okay, you can move on.
Yes. Yeah. So sometimes students have had a previous visa refusal. So in this case, they must be transparent and they must be clear about why they were refused previously. I know this doesn't. This is a very not a common. It's a rare event, but this is something you should be aware of.
Yeah. Move on.
Where will you be living in the UK? This is very important. The more information that a candidate can give on exact accommodation plans. So one thing they must not say is that they're staying at their friends or their cousins or their relatives, because it makes a link to the UK which they shouldn't have. So they must do research on private or on-campus accommodation, and they need to know specific names of whether it's Victoria Hall or whether it's the Cripps Hall of Residence or whatever. The name of that accommodation is more convincing, and they should know exactly what the costs are going to be per week or per month and per year.
Yeah.
So did I miss anything there, Richard?
No, a very important point. If they study in London, they cannot stay accommodated in Birmingham. It's too far away. No,
Yes,
it
that's
happened.
true.
It happened. So very important is we had this case study with Richmond American University in London. A student said that he failed because he was more than 50 minutes by metro or train from the campus. So it should be in 1 hour, okay? The accommodation should be in 1 hour circle, not more than that.
Yes. So I mentioned this briefly before. What do candidates know about the course structure? So they really have to research carefully online to know exactly for each course what are the specific modules that they're going to study. They need to know what projects or assessments they will be undertaking, and so that in the interviews that I give, there are questions which have come from the universities directly, which talk about this. So they'll ask, what is the the length of time that you have, or what is the period that you have to hand in assessments? And mainly students don't understand that. They don't understand what that question means. So it's very important that the agents share with the candidates the questions that we are giving to them in advance, and make sure the agent needs to make sure that the candidate has a proper answer for each of the questions, because it is quite difficult to understand what the meaning of the question is, and it needs an interpreter, somebody like yourselves, agents who have this experience, to help the candidate. I will give more specific questions and answers later on. These points I'm making at the moment are the main main questions that you ask, but there are some more specific ones that we know come up more often, and we've documented them, and we now ask them in our special precast interviews. I will be asking candidates, but I want the agents to be asking the candidates in advance as well, so that they're not coming to me fresh. Otherwise, it's a waste of my time, really.
No, not as waste of your time, it's waste of time for everyone involved, because if they come in fresh, that's mean that they are not coached. So that's mean that as well, if Chris is giving an interview, the student is still not ready. Let's make a long story short. Chris can make as well 2 interviews to the student. This is not a problem. It's not a problem. But now we are in June, 12th of June. So the problem is the one who want to start in September, we need to hurry up. So we need to make sure that when the candidate come to Chris, is already ready. He's already ready, not that start from zero. And for this, we need your support. We need that you prepare the candidate. So when they come to Chris, they're quite ready. And then Chris give the final help. He go all the answer, every single answer one by one. And he look into the details a little bit more. And then they can go to the CAS interview and everything is fine. So it's very important that you help the students before, and this has nothing to do with the time waste of Chris or me or you. It's just the situation we are in. We are in June now, or even if we start to recruit a student in November for January, we all know that sometimes the timeline is not on our side. So the one who need to run is always us. So if we can really help the students in advance, it will be very helpful. Chris, you can move on.
Yeah, and in addition to that, Richard, we will share a copy of this presentation with the agents, and the questions could be they could share a copy of it with the candidates.
Absolutely,
So, yeah, it will help them, right? So the more that this information gets down to the candidates, the better they can prepare.
Yeah.
Some questions that might come up, unlikely, but they might ask, what are their strengths and weaknesses? And all of you know that you only talk about the strengths and not the weaknesses. So you make a weakness that could be something that can be made stronger. That's how all interviews should be answered, as you know. Again, have you visited the UK before? Most of the candidates I talked to have never been to the UK or not. I think having been to the UK before is it's okay as long as they have not overstayed the visa and can justify when they left and they haven't done anything illegal when they're in the UK. The last question, how will this course benefit your home country? Might seem a tricky question to answer, but these are questions that might be asked.
Examiner always ask many questions, and we really have to show them, the students, all these examples so that they are well prepared. This is very important. Sorry, Chris, you can continue.
Yep. So I'm going to go through now the kind of interview that I would give them. I might be adding some more questions in after this, for example, on the English language tests that they may have, which I haven't been asking as a standard question. I'm assuming that they have been vetted before, but if they haven't, then they need to be able to explain that. So obviously, what is your full name? Where are you located? Now, what I would recommend to your candidates, as a native English speaker, I find it difficult to understand the accents or even the correct pronunciation of a name from India or Pakistan or wherever. It's my fault. It's not the fault of the candidate. But what I would recommend is that they say their name and then spell it out. And that will help the examiner to make sure they get it correct, they get it right. And quite often I've the candidate will say, I'm from some village name somewhere near somewhere, and I have no idea where that is. If they can say where are they from, which part of the country and which country, that would be really useful. Sometimes when I ask, where are you located, they will answer, I'm at my office, or I'm at my friend's house, which is also okay, but then there'll be a follow-up question, because I will ask them, where are you calling from? Is it in your office or is it your home? Then, of course, which university you've applied for. Again, sometimes I get candidates that I can't understand what university they are applying for, which I find this is very frustrating. This should be one thing they really can say clearly. It is quite tricky to say Regent's College in some accents, but for example. So the next is the course they've applied for, and I'm asking which agent is assisting you. This is only for internal purposes, because I think it's good for us to keep a monitor on that.
Something very important is which course apply for. This is a very important part, is the title of the course, because let's presume someone is doing a Bachelor of Business, okay? So the student cannot say, I'm doing a Bachelor of Business. He must say exactly how it's written. And if, for example, the University of Winchester write Business and Administration, it should say, I will do the course of Business and Administration. Should be very clear exactly how the title of the course. Correct, Chris?
Correct, yes.
Okay, let's continue. We have to move a little bit faster now, Chris.
Are we running out of time?
Yep.
Okay, self-introduction. I've spoken about this previously. When I ask them questions, I like to structure it so that they can separate. So personal introduction, tell me about yourself and your family life in your country, then give an academic background, and then give a professional background. And I think that helps them to structure that. If they're asked, please give a personal introduction about your academic background and professional background, they will be able to do that in a structured way. Reasons for continuing study. What are your reasons for deciding to progress with study? This one is actually quite tricky, because what motivates you for studying? This is, why do you like studying, is basically what this is asking you. Why? It's not just about, or in many people's cases, it would be about, I want to advance my career, or I want to be able to receive a higher salary. But make sure that they're able to answer that question without talking about the UK. A lot of them talk about the actual course. That first question, what are your reasons for deciding to progress with study, is more not about the specific course and the specific university. It's about, why are they leaving their work, or why are they not going to get a job? Why do they want to study? What are your reasons for deciding to progress with study in the UK? This one, again, we spoke of earlier. They must differentiate UK's advantage over USA or Canada or New Zealand. Basically, shorter courses, lower price, it's less expensive. What are your reasons for choosing to apply for this university? Pretty standard, we've spoken about. Why choose this course? What inspired you to choose to apply for this course? And what aspects of the course are you more interested in, and why? So for this, they need to know very clearly what are the modules that they are planning to take, and why do they like these modules?
Yeah.
What will be the
Chris,
biggest? Hi.
Chris, I wanted to bring on board Simran a second. Simran.
Hello, Richard. Hello.
Hello. So maybe clarify this point that you just write it down on the chat system.
Yes. So recently, we've had a lot of students that apply, via English waiver. They either provide like a medium of instruction letter from the university, or choose like their 12th English grades. And this is usually done by the university to give, chances to students who don't have an IELTS and who have already studied in their university in English. But, since these students haven't taken an IELTS, sometimes they have poor English. So it's important that the agents, um, train the students and help them with their language barrier first, and then proceed on to the credibility interview. Because what happens is sometimes they have the question and answers, they have, they do their research, but then they only memorize the answers and they don't genuinely mean it. So it's important that these students practice self-study. They prepare their own answers in their own words. The vocabulary doesn't need to be fancy. It can just be very, very simple, correct grammar English. But yes, they need more, more focus from their agents, and they need more assistance. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, it's good, Simran, that you put this down on the table, because many students they apply via mutual of understanding, and which is fine, it's excellent. But then there is a problem sometimes if this type of students who choose this way, if they will be asked for an interview, then it's our role, it's your role to help the student, to coach the students, and you can use what Chris prepared today, and you can prepare your students on this. This is a very important point. Thank you, Simran, to bring this on board. Thank you very much. Is anything else? Just come on board
Yes,
and tell us.
okay, just one last thing.
Yes.
I think it's also important for us to inform the students to practice self-study, because, the agents can only teach them so much. But then if the students, if they write all the question and answers on a piece of paper, sorry, only the questions, and prepare the answers by themselves, do their own research, go on the university website, see the course fee, where it's located, and, watch some YouTube videos, then the student understands the interview more than just looking at it as like a test. And then I think it's important for the students to understand it and not just memorize the answers that the agents have sent them.
Yes, it's a good point, Simran.
Yeah. Any question, Anna or Aziz or anyone else here so far? Please come on board if you have any question you want to bring on the table. Okay, let's move on, Chris.
So I asked the question, what will be the biggest challenge for you in this course? And various answers come across. And I think one is the first experience living in a foreign country, or the language challenge. But I always explain to candidates to make sure that they say afterwards that they don't think that they are very confident, and they will be able to overcome any challenge. And the best answer I received was, "There's no challenge. I'm very confident." So that's one way to answer. What do you enjoy more about study and education? Now, this again is asking the candidate, why do they want to continue to study? What motivates them to study? And this one throws candidates a lot. So obviously you have to come up with an answer that's I like to study because I've always learned from young that I should study to advance myself, and that I developed the habit of lifelong study, or something like that. I just I always give candidates that sort of answer on how to answer. There's no specific answer that an interviewer is looking for, but it needs that the candidate has thought about this question and they come back with an answer that is theirs, it's original to them, and it applies to their story. And what motivates you the most? Is it, I had a funny answer the other day. Some people say it's I want to get a better job, or I want to increase my pay. And the other day, a candidate told me, my father, he's a one-star general. So I said that would motivate most people. So course details, who's the awarding university, how long will you be required to attend a class. This needs to be researched thoroughly, and the candidate has to look up on the course details how many hours are they expected to attend class each week, what's the duration of the course, how long do you study towards submissions. What does this mean? Well, it probably means something different to every course, because some courses would have assignments which are a project or a case study or essays or thesis, dissertation. This has to be researched thoroughly, and they need to know how long do they have to prepare this. Is it 1 week? Is it 1 month, 3 months, 6 months? What is it? Similarly, how will the course be assessed? What is the assessment method? Many candidates can't answer this very clearly, although some can, they've memorized it, but if you drill down and ask them more, they won't really understand what it means. And it is difficult for students that haven't been through this kind of an education method. And that's why it's important, again, that you guys, the agents who've gone through, you've all studied and you've all gone through this kind of process, have to give some advice on how to answer this question.
Thank you, Chris.
Knowledge about the university. Again, they must have researched, they must know in detail why this university is attractive to certain students. They need to know about the university's facilities. So I will often ask them, do you know what the name of the library is? Do you know what the name of the sports hall is? Do you know what the name of the main building is? And I'll tell them, look it up on the map. Look at the university map of the campus so that you can impress the interviewer with what you know about the university.
I wanted to point out, yes, Chris, you are completely right. I wanted to point out here a strategy for you. More you tell to the students to look into the university, less they do. Many students are underestimate this interview. Many, let's say 80%. 80% of the students underestimate this interview. Now, the tricky question is, like Chris said, is to change the game. Is that the student should tell you when you meet them after they enroll and they pay the deposit, etc., you should ask them simple questions. Say, by the way, you know you will have an interview, and the students say, oh, yes, oh, no, I don't know. Say, okay, so let's presumably the examiner will ask you, what is the name of the library? Can you answer me these questions? I presume 95% of the students cannot answer you this question. So you should start from there. You should start from the very weak questions. Where is the library? So from there, they say, I don't know. Then they say, okay, tell me the name exactly of the course that you book. Exactly how it's written on the website. I don't know. So start from there. You have to build up. You have to understand the university examiner, how they tick. You know, so more the students understand, the students become clever, and when has the examiner, maybe some question is not ready to answer correctly, but he can go a little bit, let's say, in another model inside, you know, because he can show that he takes seriously the university and he know in and out about all the information about the university, from the program, the course, the timing, the hours, etc., etc. So this is your job, to coach the students in a very strategic way that he will come ready, happy, and motivated. This is as well something else. Sometimes we have students who are not motivated. I can see them in the interview, they're quite sleepy, they're like this. No, they have to be very enthusiastic, ready, speak, be clear. Chris is correct?
Yes, absolutely. And this is another question that came up. We know from feedback from one of the universities. A simple question: what do you know about the alumni network? And nobody that I interview knows what alumni means. And even after I've interviewed candidates more than once and I explained it to them, they still don't know it. And I just hope that you can get this question across. It's only one of many, many questions, but it could make the difference. If a candidate can explain about their specific university's alumni network and what it does and how it works and how it helps with funding, the more that they know, the better. Career plans again. What are your short and long-term plans for your future career? The first thing you say is, I want to go back to my home country. That's the most important point. And then what you want to do after that is each candidate's individual story. Do you have any thoughts on what kind of company you will apply for? Again, they must have researched which companies they think they might be able to get a job with afterwards and what kind of job they want in that university. What is the dream job? Would it be to be the HR manager or the business manager in a particular company? They need to be able to describe that. Or maybe they have ambitions to have their own business, open their own company. And quite a few candidates have got a good grip on that. Some of them, it's easy. They just want to go home and work for their parents' company, for example. So
this is something else which we find out a problem. Sometimes the examiner asks when they say, I want to go home to my parents' company. So the examiner asks, okay, fantastic. So tell me a little bit about your parents' company, what they do. Can you maybe explain the case study, Chris, we had, I think, 2-3 weeks ago with one of the students? Can you maybe explain this part?
I will talk about that later on. I've added in some new questions.
No, okay, but just to go on this point here, when they ask about the parents' work, the examiner ask questions. I think they was working in the agriculture field, something like that, if I'm correct.
Actually, I've seen so many cases, I'm not
Don't
sure.
Don't worry. Anyway, the examiner was asking, so he said, my parents are working in the agriculture field, and say, okay, fantastic. So what they do? So what they do? What they plan? You know, he was not able to answer. So he said, what is the turnover of your father company? No idea. How many employer your father company has? No idea. Where is located the company? No idea. So it's important if they give an answer, they want to work by the parents' company, to give a clear answer which they are well prepared before. It's very simple. Just ask your father, where is the company, how many clients, how much is the turnover, what you do exactly. Maybe spend 2-3 days in the father company to try to understand what he's doing. Very simple. I mean, it's not a big work, but many students do not know. I presume if I ask my daughter what I'm doing, she doesn't know. But
yes.
To be honest, I'm honest as well myself. If I ask my daughter what I'm doing, she say, oh, I don't know, you're doing events. That's it. This is what she knows. But that's it. Not more than this. Okay, Chris, continue.
Yes. Actually, can I just ask a question? Who have I got on the call now? Anna, Aziz,
yes,
Mrs. Ekman?
Ekman Prier, Mr. Zubair Khan, Mr. Kamran Khan, and Mr. Yusma Tayyab.
Okay.
But I will send you the list later on, Chris.
Oh, only to interest. I'd like does anyone have any questions at this time from the group?
No questions so far. No questions.
No. Okay. Is everyone awake?
Yes, we still have another 5-7 minutes, Chris. We have to move on.
We've got the free version of Zoom, have we?
No, we don't have the free version of Zoom. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Well, at least check. So, do you have friends and family in the UK? The answer is no.
Always no.
Okay. Have you ever been abroad? The answer could be yes, as long as you haven't overstayed a visa. Do you plan to bring independence to the UK? The answer is always no. Okay. Where will you plan to live? We spoke about that earlier, but need to know details of exactly where, how much it's going to cost, etc. Financial checks. This is more for the UKVI CAS interview later on, but how will you fund your study costs? How much are your tuition fees? They must know specific figures, and this is what Richard spoke about earlier. Is it the parents? Is it their own funds? And what do your parents do for a living? They must know precisely what the mother and father are doing for their work. What's the name of their company or their shop or their business or their farm? Then how much do they expect to pay for accommodation, food and transportation? What will be the monthly budget, which is related to the question before? I always tag on a couple of questions. Most of the candidates have something to do with business, or at least even if it's not the course they're going to study, they should understand what's happening in the world. So I always ask two questions. What does the candidate know about recent global events in the news? And whether the sorry, Richard, can
No,
you
I
just
take
take
over.
over?
I take over. One of the questions that usually examiner ask is what you know about recent development in the UK in the news. So that's mean that your students who want to go to the UK, they need to start to watch BBC in order to know what happened in the UK. But let's presume something happened in Bournemouth or in Oxford or in Cambridge, and the examiner asked the question, so what happened last night in Bournemouth? And the student said, I don't know, no idea. So, okay, so what's happened last week in Birmingham? No idea. Who win the soccer team champions? No, I don't want to ask this question. But they will ask questions, what happened in the UK? So what I want to say is very important. Make sure your student start to watch BBC or any other channel from the UK. I just say BBC. I don't want to give them more promotion. They already have a lot of promotion, but it's important. Or they can start to read the newspaper online, British newspaper online from the UK, not a British newspaper back from Nigeria or British newspaper back from India or Pakistan or whatever. Very important is UK newspaper read so they can answer the question. Examiner are some of them, they are rude as well, some examiner. So it's important that we have to tell our students the importance to go through this question, to learn more about the UK. This is very, very important. Chris, are you okay?
Yes, thank you for rescuing me there.
Yeah.
Too many interviews today. So what I add to what Richard has said, I think it's also a chance for two things. It's a chance for the candidate to show their general knowledge, and it's also a chance for the interviewer to get more of a feel about the candidate and whether their English is up to par. Sometimes I'm surprised candidates that didn't do that well in some of the earlier questions, which I thought they would know, were able to really answer very well both the question what's happening worldwide, whether it's tariffs or international wars or whatever, they're able to, or politics, they might be able to talk about recent elections or who's the leader of such. You know, it's a chance for the candidate to shine. And the same similarly about what happened in the UK. And I think it's really important that they know about the UK because they're going to come and study here. I often ask some other questions just to try and get conversation going, to get the confidence up of candidates. And I ask them, you know, do they like to play sports? What kind of sports do they play? Do they know anything about the facilities at the universities that they're going to play or clubs? And I say to them, look, if you bring this out in your interview, when you're asked about the facilities, for example, tell them you like to play badminton or cricket or football or whatever, and that you tell them who you support. Maybe it's a London club or whatever, but make a conversation that's specific to you that answers a question. So do's and don'ts. Do dress formally. Make sure you have a distraction-free background. Be confident, polite, and concise. Ask the interviewer to repeat questions. Align answers with your statement of purpose and your application materials, and tell the truth, which I missed out there. Make sure it's truthful. Don't lie or exaggerate. Make sure that you're consistent or you'll get rejected. Don't give generic answers. Make sure that you tailor responses to your specific story about which university and course you're applying to. And do not hint at intending to stay in the UK for any reason, whether it's temporarily or permanently. And don't be overly nervous, which means you've got to practice your mock interviews with your agent and friends to build your confidence. How much time have I got? Not much time. So common reasons for rejection are inconsistent answers, poor English proficiency, lack of a genuine intent, basically vague or generic answers, insufficient financial knowledge, and failure to attend the scheduled interview. And that might mean not showing up on time, even if you're 1 or 2 minutes late. The interviewer might have gone on to the next candidate. Just final notes, pre-CAS versus CAS. Pre-CAS interviews focus on the academic fit and intent. CAS interviews by the UKVI emphasize visa eligibility and compliance. Questions often overlap, but CAS may dig deeper into finances and post-study plans. Recent trends in 2023, over 10% of UK student visa refusals were due to doubted document credibility. So ensure all documents are accurate and verifiable. Mock interviews, make sure to practice with your counsellor or mentor to refine your responses, and contact experts such as your education consultant. And that is the end of what I have to say today. Are there any questions from anybody?
No, Chris, you explained everything very, very clear. I think this was a very good seminar. We explained in details what happened, how examiner can be very tough with the students. So we need to help them. This is what we have to do in our business. We need to help our students to go through the pre-CAS interview. We do our part. Chris is ready to interview. He interviews every day candidates. So when you need, we will organize a pre-interview with Chris. But logically, it's very important that you prepare them as well in advance, so that when they reach Chris, they already are quite there and able to answer all the questions, so that Chris can finalize in the final details. And I think this is the most important part. Any question, Aziz or Anna? Simran, Ekman, Preet Kaur, or Zubair Khan, or Kamran Khan. If any questions, Simran?
No questions, Richard.
Okay. Okay, then I want to thank you everyone to be here today, and I wish you all the best, good health, which is the most important thing of everything. All the rest is second or third or fourth. And keep smiling. Thank you. Thank you. It was nice to have you here today. Have a great afternoon or great evening, whatever you are. And we keep in touch. Thank you for your collaboration and for your business. Thank you, Chris, as usual.
My pleasure. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Simran.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone.